Hello there, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here to talk about Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans. Now, this is the landmark 50th season, if you can believe it, of the reality show Survivor, and it follows 24, which is a record for U.S. Survivor, previous contestants who have played 12 in the considered new era, which is 41 through 49, and then you have 12 from the previous 1 through 39 seasons. And obviously this is going to be a spoiler filled video, so I just wanted to get that out of the way now because the season's been out. The finale aired almost a week ago, and I just it's been airing for months, obviously, so just wanted to give that heads up. So I was obviously really excited for this because the returning seasons are usually something that we all get excited about, seeing all these different players from their first seasons come back and interact with different players from these different seasons. And obviously a lot of them playing a record 5 times, like 2 of the players I believe this season, like Cirie and Ozzy, played, I believe this is their 5th time on US Survivor. So obviously they have a lot of history on these other seasons, and so it feels like kind of like a culmination of seeing some of them play again. Also some one-off characters, like Rick Devens and Christian, and some new era favorites like Emily. So there's just a lot of anticipation, and unfortunately, while it was overall, I did enjoy the season overall, there was so much hindering it for me personally. Like, for example, when they say in the hands of the fans, they give us a chance, because before the season aired, during 48, they gave us an option to vote on certain stuff, like, the immunity necklace, what the final challenge would be. Even though the final challenge was, you could pretty much tell it was going to be recycled challenges they've used recently, because the 3 options were, challenges that they have used, recently, so it's more convenient and not as expensive probably to just build it up again, because these are recent challenges. And so you had stuff like that where it felt kind of lazy. And then also you also had how they were very vague on what you want to, if you want advantages, no advantages, or they didn't even say that. They were very vague on the wording to try to trick you into putting more advantages, which how the season played out overall, I think everyone agreed that all these twists and advantages kind of ruined the season in a lot of ways. Obviously, we didn't vote on celebrities, which we got not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 celebrities either reference or full-on show up on location and, influence the game. Like, obviously, the most egregious one, I think everyone agrees on, is Jimmy Fallon. Which, you see there, that really turned out well for Christian, didn't it? And then, which was just insane and ridiculous how, a fan favorite, Christian was one of the main characters of the season, and he's basically screwed because of that twist. Since he didn't complete the puzzle in time, he had to tell everyone he has to vote for himself, which obviously incentivizes everyone to vote him out. So that was just incredibly frustrating. Also, I wanted to say, probably the biggest moment, which is, speaking of the celebrity cameos, which is kind of hilarious, we had, Mr. Beast show up, and, Rick Devens really made his mark as, he was, one of the highlights of the season for sure, was that coin flip, where Mr. Beast shows up with his, Mr. Beast Beware Advantage, or whatever the stupid thing was, and it was a coin flip, and if you call it correctly when you flip it, it increases the prize from $1 million to $2 million. On top of that, if you succeed, you also get an idol and safety for that tribal. So seeing that actually be successful was an incredible thing. It was one of the best things, but it could have obviously failed drastically. But I mean, seeing Devens go all in, I'm willing to do this, let's go. That was just so fun to watch as well. Also, Billie Eilish made up, I guess she was able to have this idol, which come to learn through podcasts and how she just doesn't care about the show and was making fun of it on a podcast. She doesn't care whatsoever. This idol was made literally just like they sent it to her like, hey, they sent her like an idea on like, hey, do you want to do this or whatever? And either she or whoever represents her was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Obviously, you could tell she's never watched the show. She looks down upon the show. She doesn't care about the show. And obviously, I don't like her at all personally, outside of, even besides all this stuff, I just don't like her as a person. But how she literally ruins, like, a fan favorite, Genevieve. Like, everyone loves Genevieve, a fan favorite highlight. She is the sole reason, really, that she kind of gets screwed, because she was screwed twist after twist, and because her arch rival was, like, Aubrey, and they were kind of having, like, beef. Which is a recurring thread, because everyone had beef this season. You had, Genevieve versus Aubrey, which was a big storyline pre-merge, which obviously, Genevieve, everyone was rooting for Genevieve. Everyone wanted Genevieve to win. She was the clear favorite, but she kept getting screwed. They were trying to throw challenges to get Aubrey out. They couldn't. The one time they get to go to Tribal was during the Blood Moon twist, which we literally saw like 3 people, like full-on 3 people get screwed out of the game. Which is, I was happy for Camilla getting screwed out, because, she was incredibly bitter. She played herself into that situation by screwing over Jonathan the previous round. I don't know why she thought he would still side with her after screwing him over and being bitter in the press and everything, but whatever. Colby was probably the least screwed, because when outside sources, he was probably going to get medevac because he was getting injured and getting all these infections, and he, I believe, tore a ligament, so he was the least screwed. But Genevieve was like full on nothing she could do. She was just screwed. And that Blood Moon is probably one of the worst ever, because that was such a shame to see 3 people who, really had nothing to do to save themselves, even though some were definitely more screwed than others. And the overall twist this season just kind of hindered the show, because my main critique with this new era is the less days that they play. And I was wondering, well, they're going to have 24 people, so obviously you should increase the days instead of it being 26 still. Nope, still 26 days. So that means every episode, it felt like almost every episode near the latter half was 2 a night. Like 2 boots a night. Like literally the 2 episodes before the finale were double boots. You had the triple boot, you had the double boot pre-merge. And I was like, this is ridiculous. They don't really have a chance to like do anything. And I get it's fast and chaotic and everything, but I missed the 39 days, especially on a season like this. They could have done that. I felt they could have done that. And it's just so like, they're so like set with, whenever they have a formula, they're very rigid and not wanting to change that formula. And you could tell that because a lot of people were hyping up, Cirie can win. Cirie's gonna win, mother. And I knew when the Zach Brown episode came out, which, by the way, that episode, obviously, I saw it was like the least favorite episode of all time. I believe on like the ratings and IMDb, it's the worst reviewed episode of the entire show's history. Which is kind of insane, because there's been way worse episodes I don't want to dive into. Like, just really, like, not even, like, in terms of episodes, but just in terms of, like, icky, uncomfortable situation types, which are obviously worse episodes. So the reaction for a reward that took up a bit of screen time is a bit too much. But that episode, especially the pre-merge, a lot of people were getting, like, skunked, which you can see here with the final confessional count. You see the final confessional count, mostly women were getting skunked, like, which means 0 confessionals an episode, which if you follow Edgic and you follow the editing, if you get a 0 confessional in this recent New Era seasons, you can't win. You have to get at least 1 confessional to win the season, and that's been set precedent since Marianne in 42. Every season since, even Gabler and, Jam Jam, D, etc., they've all gotten at least 1 confessional per episode, which, means they're the winner. And obviously when Cirie and Devins, I believe, and like Jonathan, like these are players that go far into the game. No one expected Joe to win, but all these people that go far, like all got 0 confessionals at least once. So you knew, okay, when you get to the final episode, which you see, it's 5 people, only Aubrey or Rizzo can win because they're the only ones who weren't skunked all season. So it's this it's such a shame because a lot of people picked up on that like you just know who was going to win, but it's unfortunate. And also you had a lot of other outside sources like Bet Insights, Kalshi, I believe is one of them, how people were like literally gambling on who's going to get voted out and who's going to win. And it just really took the fun out of like the mystery on who can win and not. And I really hope they fix that going forward because that was just insane to see play out throughout this season. And I get the season was going to be spoiled a lot because it's a returnee season. We know all these people. But still, it's just a real shame. Also, I will say I wanted to give a big shout out to Aubrey. She is one of my favorite players from the 30s. And obviously a lot of people believe she should have won her first season co-run. And, just to see her, like, you could just clearly tell how much this meant to her. How her seasons after co-run weren't so great in terms of her gameplay and just how she, felt on the show. And so seeing her be able to, redeem herself and her legacy and just to pull out the win finally was just so rewarding, and I just felt really happy for her, and it was just a great thing to see. She's just such a cool person from what we've seen on the show and outside the show. It's just really nice that she was able to do it. And obviously I wish the editing was a bit better in a lot of aspects, but you can kind of tell, like, don't want to take away from her win and everything, and this was a pretty weak final three, all things considered. But it really did feel like she was rewarded based on, we want her to represent 50, the legacy season. Her story outside of 50 is more compelling for a winner of this season. That's what it felt like, but I still thought she played a pretty alright game and, did what she had to do. And the comparison of Michelle's game is also really hilarious, how it kind of comes full circle. How she kind of did a lot of her stuff in the back half of the game similar to Michelle. So I thought that was pretty funny and a nice editing thing, even though it annoyed people. But I mean, there were some other highlights, like for example Q and Kyle. For what we like, you would think he would be dead in the water. Like Kyle, he was like in a great position until his medevac. Like those two, and even losing someone like a Mike White. Like, these were three players that it was really unfortunate that they left, early. And obviously, Charlie was like, I felt so bad for him because he was another person like an Aubrey who, deserved his, he should have won. A lot of people argue his season over Kenzie because he actually, played the better game. But, that one bitter vote, Maria screwed him. Also, I was really disappointed to see Jenna, our representation from the very first season, Borneo, be the first one voted out instead of, someone like a Suri, who I know everyone adores and says is the best to never win, which, I mean, she is a really good player, but in my opinion, is easily one of the most overrated players ever. We see her everywhere. We see her on Traders, Big Brother, and everything. And we were even, like, we see her so much. It's like, I was really just upset that, Jenna, who we haven't seen in probably 20 years, who hasn't played since All-Stars, which was in season 8. We haven't seen, she deserved better, honestly, and I felt bad. Also, I did want to give a shout out, other players that I really did like Jonathan, who everyone obviously doesn't really like in terms of the fandom, the online crazies, and a lot of the casts aren't really a fan of him. You could clearly tell he improved his game from 42 in a lot of ways, and he was definitely much stronger in the game from that aspect, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. But there is just a lot of you could just tell there's so much animosity and hatred from so many of these people. Christian is obviously versus Angelina and Mike. They obviously have a lot of beef because he screwed them both over. You had Charlie versus Rizzo, and mainly Charlie versus D, because the main thing is they lied about Rizzo. He's this godlike player. He is fantastic. He does all this. And then you watch Exit Press and people actually talk about him. Lazy, late around camp, sickly, did nothing really, just a goat to be dragged. And so the show really, whenever they like someone, they really like someone. But again, there was so much chaotic stuff. There was a lot of fun here seeing these different players interact. A lot of the twists obviously hinder the season. The less days, you know. Also, I almost forgot, not even being able to vote on who we actually want out there. That would have been, like, if we really were in the hands of the fans, we would have been able to vote on some of the players to actually be out there. But no, we didn't get to, and that's whatever. Also, I do want to shout out the intro because I love listening to the intros every season, and this one was also pretty great. But with all that said, those are all my scattered thoughts on Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans. Again, what did you all think of this season? I know I was pretty scattered all around, but please let me know down below in the comment section. If you want to hit the bell as well to get notified of when I upload, that would mean so much to me. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye!